The Black Rose McQueen. I wanted to give a shout out to Ring IQ Boxing, and remember to tune in to the motherfucking relay.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay, where we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, let's start this. Well, I'm sure that most of you have heard by now, per a tweet from Mauricio Suleiman, Golden Boy Promotions has confirmed Ryan Garcia's participation in the fight against Luke Campbell, a great tournament in the lightweight division. Michael Benson tweeted, Ryan Garcia has now accepted the Luke Campbell fight, which has been ordered by the WBC for their interim belt and as a final eliminator to decide Devin Haney's next mandatory challenger. He also had the option of a WBO final eliminator against Manuel to go. Negotiations start now. I must admit that this recent news, which broke yesterday, came as a great surprise to me, as I was very skeptical, very unsure that this order from the WBC for Ryan to face Luke would result in a fight. Ryan has been a bit of a difficult guy to deal with, a bit of a difficult guy to pin down. He's had certain purse demands that perhaps didn't make sense to his handlers, thus a fight with an interesting fighter, a solid fighter, seemed elusive, at least to me. But Ryan Garcia has so decided to go ahead with this Luke Campbell fight, and it's very welcome news. This is one of those times where I'm happy that I got it wrong and that Ryan is going to actually have this fight.
I was skeptical.
And what motivated my skepticism, big part of it, are the recent issues that Ryan Garcia has been having getting a fight done. But he has been a bit of a prima donna as of late, that he's not being very realistic as far as what he wants to be paid for a fight and what dollar amounts are actually available, all things considered. And I think that in order for Ryan Garcia to get paid the way he wants to get paid, these are the kinds of fights he needs to start having. You know, the Dunos and Fonsecas, they're not going to cut it anymore. If you want sizable purses, there have to be sizable risks, and a Luke Campbell fight is certainly more risky than any other fight that Ryan has had thus far. But on the other side of a Luke Campbell fight is everything that Ryan Garcia wants. In Luke Campbell, what he's facing is a very statuesque lightweight like himself. You know, Ryan, for what it's worth, he's got very generous dimensions as far as lightweights go, and the same is true for Luke Campbell, who stands in at a very generous 5'9", 71-inch wingspan, fights out of the southpaw stance, and we all know how frustrating those southpaws can be for an orthodox fighter. In Luke Campbell, what Ryan will be facing is a guy with an educated jab, more or less, a guy that knows how to go upstairs, a guy that knows how to go downstairs. Good footwork, very balanced, solid and statuesque for the weight. A maturated fighter who has come into his grown man strength. You know, Luke Campbell, he's in his early 30s, whereas Ryan, he's in his early 20s. Ryan hasn't peaked yet. I'd have to say that in terms of punching power, I think these two guys are about even. I think that while Luke Campbell may have come into his grown man strength, Ryan Garcia has the edge in speed, and speed kills. Speed adds more brunt to the impact of the punch, and speed is on Ryan Garcia's side. It's going to be interesting to see Ryan Garcia using that hand speed of his against someone who is more durable than a Duno, than a Fonseca.
Yeah.
Someone who's been in the trenches more so than either of those two fighters, and really any fighter that Ryan has faced so far. It's a genuinely intriguing fight. It is a step up in competition that is arriving on schedule, because it is about time for Ryan to start facing more solid fighters than the fighters that he has been facing. You got all these demands about what you want to get paid for a fight. You got all these demands for your prices. Well, you need to fight interesting guys in order for those prices to become more interesting. More interesting guys, more interesting prices. That's the way it works. Now, this fight is intended to be a segue for a Devin Haney title shot, and the winner will be the mandatory challenger to Devin Haney's belt. However, what I'm expecting is that should Ryan Garcia win this thing, afterwards, he'll likely face the winner of Linares versus Fortuna before he faces Devin Haney. I'm not expecting the succession of fights to be Luke Campbell, Devin Haney. I'm expecting the succession of fights to be Luke Campbell, and then the winner of Linares versus Fortuna. In spite of Ryan Garcia taking on this challenge, this step up in competition, I don't expect him to be rushed into that Devin Haney fight, which is a sensational fight, a generational fight between the next generations two up-and-coming stars. And as a result of Ryan Garcia going ahead with this fight, this does leave Devin Haney with a bit of a dilemma, a bit of a problem of his own, because the story was that Eddie Hearn wanted Luke Campbell to face Devin Haney, but if Luke's going to be fighting Ryan, who's Devin going to be fighting? I've said this many times in previous videos, that a fight with a Luke Campbell is just as much an opportunity for Devin as it is for Ryan to step up in class, to step up in competition against someone who's more solid, more experienced than anyone they had faced so far. Now Devin is tasked with finding a dance partner, and not just any old dance partner, the kind of dance partner that's going to get people's attention, because Devin Haney is the reigning WBC lightweight champion. And there is a desire for Devin to legitimize his reign as a champion due to the circumstances of him becoming a champion in the first fucking place. And you know what? I'm not questioning Devin's reign as a champion. He was in line to be elevated to that position as a result of Vasyl Lomachenko's people petitioning for franchise status. That's just the way the cookie crumbled. However, I want to see Devin fight somebody solid too. So I am looking forward to finding out what happens with that and who Devin Haney will be fighting in his very next fight as a result of Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell materializing. In other news, per a tweet from Mike Kopinger, PBC on Fox's return now on August 8th with the rescheduled Jamal James-Thomas Dulorme fight in the main event, and Lennox Allen, David Morelli in chief support. Source tells The Athletic Box Dulorme James was originally April 11th, then July 25th. MLB on Fox pushed it to August 8th. Now, what this essentially communicates is that the Premier Boxing Champions programming is taking a back seat to Major League Baseball as far as the people over there at Fox are concerned, and it comes as no surprise to me as Major League Baseball, being the pastime that it is and has been, is likelier to bring Fox the kind of viewership that they're looking for, more so than what the PBC's got to offer. That in many ways, the biggest of the biggest fights that some of these divisions the PBC is invested in has to offer
Won't do big numbers.
still fall short of what Major League Baseball, what kind of ratings that can bring Fox.
And that comes as no surprise.
I mean, how many people are you expecting to be falling out of their chairs over a Jamal James versus Thomas Dulorme fight, you know? We'll say that this return to action for the PBC is much sooner than I expected, as the news from PBC Island has come in rather slow as of late. And I wasn't really expecting the PBC to dip their toe in the pool of boxing, again, as we transition out of this pandemic, until sometime in the fall or even the winter months. You know, we've been seeing news from Top Rank about what they mean to stage over the summer, and Queensberry Promotions, and Matchroom, even Golden Boy. But the PBC, you know, there hasn't been all that much news coming out of PBC Island as far as what they have in store for the very near future. I was expecting that, you know, they'd come back sometime around the fall. So this is sooner than I expected. Now, you do want to pay attention to what other cards are supposed to be happening at or around this time. You know, Matchroom, August. That's when they intend to get back into the swing of things. And Dulorme versus James isn't a fight that's on the level of, say, White versus Povetkin. I mean, White versus Povetkin is, all things considered, a much more interesting, much better fight than Dulorme versus James. A much bigger fight with more on the line. And that's supposed to be happening later on that month in August. I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves, folks. One of those fights is a whole lot more likely to get global attention in foreign markets as opposed to domestic ones than the other. You'd sooner get more Americans tuning in to see what happens with White versus Povetkin than you would Brits tuning in to see what happens with Dulorme versus James. So the PBC definitely means to get back in the swing of things in August, though I don't expect the interesting matches, interesting fights with interesting fighters to start happening until the fall or winter months. That's your Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia. That's your Gervonta Davis's pay-per-view debut against Leo Santa Cruz. I don't expect those kind of fights that are on that scale to happen until later on this year. Don't expect anything on the level of White versus Povetkin to happen on the PBC side of things until later on. And finally, just in keeping with the theme of all things PBC, what's going on PBC Island with PBC fighters, Yordenis Ugas had this to say. He says, I have read some comments, and I've wanted to say that I've never received any offer to fight for a championship other than the regular WBA. I'm excited, I have to work hard, and with God willing, and the new. Yet another set of comments from Yordenis read, I'm finally getting justice. Yordenis Ugas is eager for this WBA title clash. I can't be happier with what the WBA has dictated, Ugas said to George Ebro. After all this time looking for a belt, I think I'm finally getting justice. I know Ramos wants what I want to, but I'm already getting ready and the motivation is now double. I have been preparing for weeks at my teacher Ismael Salas Academy, Ugas revealed. We're doing hard work. Now, with a recognizable opponent, let's further fine-tune the workouts to get there in the best possible way. I want that title for myself. It's exhilarating that there's something on the horizon and as important as a title within my division. I'm a warrior. I'm going in there with everything for that title. The winner of the WBA regular title would also inch a step closer to clash with Manny Pacquiao, who holds the WBA's super title at welterweight. Everyone offers lists of names of potential opponents, but no one mentions Ugas, commented Salas to Ebro. I can assure you that he is very feared and that he is better than many people think. Ugas is very complete and everyone knows them. Well, I mean, where Ismael Salas is saying that nobody names Ugas as a potential opponent for their fighters. Not that long ago, Bob Arum named Yordenis Ugas as a potential opponent option, yet this is the route they'd rather choose. This is the route they'd rather go. And don't tell me that Ugas knows nothing of Terence Crawford's name, his title, his status as a pound-for-pound fighter, and who he is to the welterweight division. Don't try to tell me that Ugas is oblivious to all of this. Don't try to tell me that a fight with Abel Ramos for a baby belt is supposed to somehow be on the same scale as a Terence Crawford fight. Look, let me tell you something.
What?
Ugas is saying that the only title he's been offered to fight for is this version of the WBA title. Essentially what he's saying is he hasn't received an offer to fight for anybody else's title. Maybe that's true.
Yeah, maybe.
But what have you been doing to get such an opportunity? What have you been doing to get such a title shot? Very recently, Errol Spence passed on a fight with Yordenis Ugas. We talked about it here on the channel. For those interested in that video, I'll leave the link to it in the description box. That's the kind of fight that Ugas is looking for, you know? He's 34 years old. He's got to try to make what can happen. Well, he still can.
Yeah.
Time waits for no man, and the clock is ticking for all of us. But Ugas especially, because Ugas is 34 years old in the welterweight division. Are you sure that you have the time to spare for these kinds of excursions, these kinds of endeavors? Are you sure that you've got the time to spare to fight Abel fucking Ramos for a WBA baby belt when you could just vie for a title shot at a full title with a full-fledged champion in Terence Crawford?
You sure?
Maybe Ugas didn't receive an offer from the top-ranked people yet. Maybe. But how hard is he pushing for one? Is he pushing for that fight in all the ways that his countryman, Erislandy Lara, was pushing for a Canelo Alvarez fight? Is Ugas exhibiting the same energy for Crawford that Lara was exhibiting for Canelo? Do you want that Crawford fight the way that Lara wanted that Canelo fight? Are you resorting to what Lara resorted to get that Canelo fight with Crawford? Is that what you're doing? Because you seem quite content fighting for a lesser version of a title on the premise that maybe it'll get you a Pacquiao fight. Do you think that Manny Pacquiao's movements at this stage in his career hinge on what the WBA wants? Or what the WBA might mandate? Is that what you think is going on?
Don't be naive.
Don't play cute and dumb with me. You know, and your handlers know, just as well as I do, that at this stage in Manny's career, he plays to the beat of his own drum, and he does only what he wants to, if he wants to. And getting a fight with him is not contingent on an order from the WBA. It's contingent on Manny wanting to fight you, and as it stands, he has no reason to want to fight you. He has much more lucrative options on the table aside from you. So the idea that I'm going to get myself a WBA baby belt on the premise it'll get me a Pacquiao fight is pure farce. Willful ignorance is what it is. because you'd sooner get a Terrence Crawford fight
Then a Pacquiao fight.
What they're doing with Ugas at 147 pounds in this WBA baby belt is the same thing they've been doing with those guys up there at 175 in that version of the WBA baby belt. Marcus Brown held that same version of the title. Marcus Brown could have challenged Dimitri Bivol for the full version of the title, but what do they have that guy do? They have that guy wasting his fucking time with Jean Pascal, only to lose it to that guy. And now what are they going to do? They're going to play hot potato with that belt. They're going to play musical chairs with that belt instead of seeing about challenging for the full version of the title. Badu Jack may end up having a rematch with Jean Pascal or Marcus Brown. Jean Pascal, who already fought Dimitri Bivol and lost to Dimitri Bivol, but Jean Pascal is holding that version of the WBA regular title. Now, if Marcus Brown were to beat Jean Pascal, or if Badu Jack were to beat Jean Pascal in a rematch situation, do you think either of those two guys are going to fight Dimitri Bivol for the full version of the title?
No.
I reiterate, Marcus Brown was an undefeated contender with a segue to a full version of a world title. A full title shot. What's he do? He decides to fight Jean Pascal for some fucking reason. And we've seen this before. We've been seeing this over the years. Like when Peter Quillen held the WBO title at 160 pounds. What's he do? He throws it in the air. He decides to fight Daniel Jacobs. For what? A WBA baby belt. A WBA regular title. What happens? He loses as a result of that contest. You see, the PBC and many of their fighters, they don't actually place any value on ceremony. They don't place any value on legacy. It's for this reason that you'd have fighters who are content fighting for lesser versions of world titles instead of competing for the full ones. Essentially, their competitive drive is being sapped. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, this is just more anti-PBC propaganda from the Ring IQ guy, that PBC fighters place no value on legacy. Where does he get that from? I'll tell you where I get that from. Yordanis Ugas' own comments. 2 weeks ago, just about, he was quoted as saying, "Don't believe the fighters when they say they want greatness. Lie. They only want money, and it's not bad. The bad thing is not saying it and lying to the fans." I mean, I can tell that Yordanis Ugas doesn't want to be great because he's prioritizing a fight with Abel Ramos for a baby belt, and there's nothing great about that. So what are you going to do? You're going to try to make this about me? Did I make Yordanis Ugas say what he said via his own Twitter account? Or is this an example of what I've been telling you all along? PBC fighters don't want to be great. They just want to get paid, because in PBC land, they seem to think that getting paid and being great are mutually exclusive, when nothing could be further from the truth. The greater you are, the more you'll get paid. But if you don't want to be great, because the kind of people that handle your career are the kind of people that'll tell you that being great is just a lie. When those are the kind of people that are helping you make decisions, of course you're not going to want to be great. Of course you're going to think that fighting Abel Ramos for a baby belt is an adequate use of your time, what little time you have left as a 34-year-old welterweight. Those aren't the kind of people that are going to keep you sharp and keep you hungry, keep you pushing for fights with fighters the likes of a Terrence Crawford, because you don't want to be great. You just want to get paid. And you basically admitted that yourself.